Welcome to Marijuana Etiquette. Today we will be discussing the top 10 arguments in favor of legalizing marijuana. Number 1. Tax revenue. Perhaps the most cynical argument in favor of legalizing cannabis is that it would create an enormous amount of new tax revenue for local, state, and federal governments. Take, for example, the city of Colorado Springs, which made about $700,000 in the year 2011 due to taxes levied on the medical marijuana industry in the area. This may not sound like a lot of money, but Colorado Springs has been struggling with budget issues, so the additional income was very helpful. Recently, ABC reported that Colorado's first accounting of their state's recreational marijuana sales had netted them a cool $2 million in tax dollars, and that was just in January alone. Number 2. Hemp production and products. Hemp is an amazing plant. It can be harvested as many as 4 times in 1 year, and is considered very easy to maintain without the need of any pesticides or the like, according to the Colorado Springs Business Journal. It can be used to make soap, clothing, and even repair soil. If you're concerned about drug use, the hemp plant doesn't even contain the psychoactive compounds found in marijuana. Some have suggested that growing it in the United States would glut the market, making it not even worth the effort in the first place. However, recent studies have shown that there is definitely a market for hemp. Number 3. Medical uses. While much has been made of marijuana's cancer-fighting properties, many people are under the impression that its only positive effect is to reduce the nausea of chemotherapy patients. It was reported by the Huffington Post that 2 scientists that discovered cannabidiol, which is found in marijuana but doesn't contain any of its own psychoactive properties, could actually turn off the ID1 gene that is behind a cancer's inevitable death march through your internal organs. While it has only been tested on mice so far, due to research restrictions, the current results are very promising. Unfortunately, until cannabis is legalized, studying this further and helping bring an end to cancer will be difficult. Number 4. Marijuana is safer than alcohol. While alcohol is perfectly legal, it is much more dangerous than marijuana, since there have been no known deaths caused by a marijuana overdose. Alcohol has ethanol, which turns into a toxic substance called acetaldehyde when you drink. Your body breaks this compound down into a non-toxic form, but it can only keep up so fast, which means heavy drinking can seriously damage your liver. In fact, a study by the National Institute of Drug Abuse confirmed this. Alcohol, when consumed in amounts beyond that would be required to get you quote-unquote high, can realistically lead to death, and has certainly been known to do so. However, to consume a fatal dose of marijuana, you would need thousands of times as much as you would normally use, which makes it pretty much impossible. Number 5. Fewer DUIs. Many people argue that as soon as another drug is legalized, we would have a rash, irresponsible, new DUIs, as people prove once again that they can't be trusted with anything more dangerous than a sheet of bubble wrap. Surprisingly, this has turned out not to be the case with marijuana. According to the DUI Central, Washington State DUIs went down after marijuana was legalized for recreational use, with 30 fewer cases of DUIs than in the same time period the previous year. Number 6. Religious freedom. Most people have probably heard of Rastafarians, but probably know very little about them aside from the fact that smoking marijuana is a part of their religion. For this reason, some people don't take them very seriously, but their religion is not a joke. The BBC explains that Rastafarians believe in marijuana as a sacred herb meant to induce a more meditative state of prayer, and have complicated beliefs like any religious group. Number 7. Brain protection. One of the most common arguments against marijuana is that despite all the good it may do, it causes harm to your brain cells. It makes your memory worse, makes you stupid, and all that other commonly held wisdom. While marijuana research is scant for obvious reasons, more recent studies suggest that the damage to your memory is truly short-term, and by short-term we really mean only while you're actually high on the effects of the herb. But let's get more to the point. Dr. Yosef Sarn of Tel Aviv University was studying small amounts of the herb on mice, found a theory that turns the popular idea on its head. He says that marijuana can indeed do very small amounts of damage to the brain, but that it acts like a vaccine for the brain's own protection. His tests found that mice that were exposed to brain trauma recovered from the ordeal and were performing better on learning and memory tests than the rats that didn't have THC. While the study has not yet been tested on humans, it suggests that using THC triggers a part of the brain that begins the process to protect it from harm, without doing any serious damage. The LA Times reports that Dr. Sarn believes that THC may have use for helping people who are epileptic. Number 8. Law enforcement want it legalized. Many stoners think of the police as a sort of us versus them thing, and it's not really surprising as to why. As mentioned previously, there are a lot of marijuana arrests, and many of them really are just for simple possession. This, of course, leads to people who feel they have been treated unfairly when they are doing nothing wrong apart from possessing cannabis. This leads to some understandable resentment towards the cops, but many don't realize that the police force isn't particularly happy with the whole thing either. Police don't take a job to protect and serve so they can spend their time on petty drug violations. According to the Rolling Stone, some cops feel that possession cases are keeping them from real police work, like protecting people from drunk drivers or robbers. And nowhere is this clearer than coming from the Seattle Police Department in Washington State. CNN reported that on 4/20, the city of Seattle held a celebration for marijuana as per tradition, and the police decided to get in on the act to show they had no problem with marijuana's new legal status. They passed out free Doritos to people with the munchies, and had the bags inscribed with messages that gave people advice without sounding heavy-handed. The messages were in essence telling people to be safe with the drug. The police don't want you to put someone else in a dangerous situation, but they aren't looking to control your life or remove fun from the world. Number 9. Decrease crime. This may sound like a no-brainer at first. After all, if marijuana isn't illegal, then it won't be a crime to possess it anymore, and that will automatically decrease crime statistics. However, when we say it would decrease crime, we aren't just talking about statistical technicalities. The truth is that much of the marijuana in the country is nasty brickweed, which was probably smuggled across the border and is putting money right into the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. A study conducted by the Mexican Competitiveness Institute suggests that even with just a few states legalizing marijuana, it could hurt the cartels with an estimated 20% loss in profits. The study, for instance, believes that the drugs from states where it is legalized will spread to other states in the country, making it hard for cartel marijuana to compete. Even if the federal government was able to stop drug trafficking between states, legalizing it federally would put the cartels out of business pretty much overnight. It is also important to note that most marijuana users are not criminals beyond their use of an illegal drug. According to the CNBC, nearly 850,000 people arrested last year for cannabis use. Barely more than 10% were charged with anything beyond simple possession. Number 10. Spice. Spice has also been known as K2, synthetic weed, and many other different slang terms in its short life. It is chemically known as JWH-018 and was originally meant as a research chemical, not for human consumption. Many people are under the impression that it is basically a more potent version of marijuana, but it really isn't the same chemically and can be extremely dangerous. Forbes reports multiple cases of kidney damage, strokes, and other bad side effects caused by spice, and in this case, the scare stories are pretty hard to deny. Spice is very dangerous and can definitely kill you. Problematically, though, because marijuana is illegal, many people have been turning to spice instead for a quote-unquote similar high. While there has been a recent crackdown on spice, its legal standing is so ambiguous that sometimes it still pops up in stores and can be easily found online. With spice being something that is apparently easy to make and hard to regulate, legalizing marijuana may be the only way to put an end to this monster. If people had safe access to marijuana, they would not have any desire to touch this toxic garbage. While people waited in Colorado for legal marijuana to be fully regulated and available, spice saw an upsurge. Unfortunately, while marijuana is now legal in Colorado, it is still illegal federally. What this means is that if you are a police officer or a member of the armed forces, you're still going to be drug tested for marijuana. Since most drug tests don't test for spice, these individuals think it's a great alternative. Additionally, according to a report in the Denver Post, many of the hospitalizations due to spice are in Colorado Springs, which is an area heavy with military personnel. So until marijuana is federally legal, our servicemen and women may be puffing a very dangerous alternative. Well, that's all. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more marijuana etiquette. Also, for those of you who live in Florida, please vote yes on Amendment 2 to help legalize cannabis.